and friends here in Hammertown to that exact location. This is Hammertown, and this is the 13th annual Nitto Tire King of the Hammers, powered by Optima batteries. Cameron Steele here up on the main stage today, along with Miles Hasselquist. Miles, welcome. Ready for a fun day?
Thanks, Cameron. I absolutely love being here. It's been a great week of racing, and today is the main day. We're going to have a lot of fun here.
Absolutely. And Jim Marsden, thank you for being here. Of course, your expertise, your style, and your fun will be very welcome here today, and I'm expecting a huge day of racing, as I know you are as well.
Oh, I can't wait. It's so exciting. So many heroes lined up in front of us today. The weather is perfect. We've got blue skies, sun overhead. It's going to be a fantastic day's racing here in Johnson Valley.
We're going to be bringing you live coverage all day long here from Hammertown and the racing all around here. And we're going to have 3 laps of racing. But before we go to that, we're going to have, of course, our Invocation, the Color Guard, and the National Anthem. And I want to just say once again, hello, everybody that's here in Hammertown. A round of applause for yourselves being out here. It's just epic and a beautiful day. We love to be here with you and are looking forward to an epic event, possibly crowning a new king. We'll find out a little bit later.
Time will tell, and be sure to tune in, ultra4racing.com/live. Get on the King of the Hammers Facebook, hit that share button, get the Ultra4 Instagram, hashtag it up. Let's blow this race up. We've had a lot of good racing this week already, and the big day is about to kick off, Cameron.
Absolutely, and I think we should kick off with the Invocation and bring up the Racers for Christ chaplain, Steve Hansen here. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Please bow with me as we pray. Father, we're just so blessed to be out here in Johnson Valley and just to be in such a great country where we can come out here and enjoy our passions. And we invite all those that are not of this country that are here to enjoy their passions with us. But Father, as we partake in such an amazing race, we ask that you just keep all these competitors safe. All the volunteers that are out on the course, would you just be, your hand of protection be upon them as well, Father. And just this great staff that has put this event together, may they just have the energy to see it through all the way until cleanup. But Father, we just lift you up in all that we do. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate that. And welcoming the 29 Palms Color Guard to the stage here at the 2019 Nitto King of the Hammers. And before we move any further, I would like to show praise to our beautiful country, and we thank Jess Downing for being here for the National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Jess Downing. Thank you, the 29 Palms Color Guard. And thank you, everybody, for joining in here in Hammertown and around the world. Gents, I know we're ready. Hammertown, are you guys ready to go racing? They certainly are. I'm ready. Miles is ready. Jim is ready. What's more important is the racers are ready. We are staged and lined up for the 2019 13th annual Nitto King of the Hammers, powered by Optima batteries. When we come back, live coverage, wall to wall, of what's happening here in Hammertown and out throughout the desert and the rock trails. Let's have some fun when we come back.
4WP is more than a store. We're truck and Jeep experts and have been for over 50 years. From wheel and tire upgrades to full custom builds, 4WP has you covered. Whether you want to order the best parts online or shop in store, do the work yourself or get it done by a pro, all roads lead to 4WP. Do your rig right. Shop online or find your store at 4WP.com.
We didn't just test the new Optima Yellow Top with Pure Flow technology, we tortured it. King of the Hammers is 181 battery-killing miles of relentless, unforgiving hellishness. It's one thing to call yourself the ultimate power source. It's another thing to prove it. The all-new Optima Yellow Top with Pure Flow technology with up to 3 times the battery life. Unsurpassed performance built to fit today's vehicles. Optima, the ultimate power source.
Welcome back to Hammertown. Cameron, Miles, and Jim here ready for the start of the race. And before we go into this 13th annual running, let's talk a little bit about who has been crowned king. And the real question, Jim, is could there be a new king? Which we know there could be, but what do you think? What are the plausibilities?
Let's look at the runners and riders we've got this year. There is so many fantastic cars, but we have so many fantastic previous kings as well. But we've got some young guns out here, some people who really can bring it to the podium. Let's talk about Levi Shirley, Waylon Campbell. These are young guys who've cut their teeth on these hammer trails in the last few years. They've made the podium before, so is it their time?
And they are driving almost identical single-seat IFS Campbell chassis. But don't forget, on the pole is Nick Nelson right next to our current king, Jason Shear. So it's going to be a lot of action, a lot of fun. This first half hour to hour is going to be amazing to see what they do out in the desert.
But before we talk about those, we ought to look at our starting lineup. On our starting lineup, we've got no less than 3 Dragon 2s. We've got Khaleesi, Nick Nelson, we've got Brian Crofts in that all-new car, and then just behind them, Lauren Healy. There was less than 1.5 seconds separated the top 3. So any of these cars look red hot. And then, of course, we've got the consummate professional himself, Jason Shearer, last year's king. Can anyone really beat this guy?
The question is, I mean, can they all beat the desert? That's kind of where I'm at right now. And something to think about, we haven't talked about, we have had weather, snow and rain. We have moist conditions in the dirt, which means for better traction. Also remember, the T1s, our class raced yesterday and tore up this desert loop, which is going to be a different look for the Ultra 4 cars.
And they haven't had much time to pre-run it since the T1 truck saying yourself tore it up out there. The desert's going to be very impressive. It's almost the same exact first loop, adding in Cougar Buttes.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned about the T1s. How much damage will they have done to the course? I was at the Mint 400 last year and I was amazed at the difference with the course after the T1s have gone round and then the Ultra 4's gone in there. Will these guys have gone out there since then and done their homework on the course, or will they just put it down to the pre-running that they've done already this week?
We'll definitely find out. Now we're just about 5 minutes away from start. Let's talk about what they're racing on. Jim, take us through the layout, because it can be confusing for the drivers. They do have GPS, but there is a lot going on here in Hammertown and in the desert here in Johnson Valley. Talk about the course.
Well, the course itself, we're going to be opening with a 90-mile desert loop. This is going to take them out of Hammertown, right the way out through Cougar Buttes, which is the first part of the rock trail. They're going to break into open desert. When we call it open desert, it's not really that open. It's quite technical out there, but as you say, the T1s are going to pushed a line right through the center. Now, are we going to see the top runners try to hold that line? Are they going to push to the side? And that's dangerous. We've got little bushes, we've got little bits of rock out there. We can see tires torn up, we can see some damage from suspension, and most of the ground out there could be frozen as well.
And I'm going to tell you, there's not just little bushes. I stepped out of the line yesterday, my navigator Kody and I, and we almost went for a huge ride. We were able to reel it back in, but at 80 miles an hour, popping out of the rut, hitting one of those bush mounds, whoo, it was a ride that I will not soon forget.
Now, last year we saw Paul Herschel absolutely tear the desert lap apart. He came in with a huge lead. And that's going to be interesting to see how these guys play it. Are the front runners going to push each other too hard, or are we going to see them throttle back a little bit and save their cars for the second and third laps?
And that just goes back to yesterday's T1 race. Attrition's definitely going to set in. Cameron, you were talking earlier today that you cannot overdrive your car because there's a handful of people that if they have a perfect day, they could win this thing. And not one person can win it without luck. But you got to save the car. They're going to be pushing really hard in the desert to get to the end, and we'll see what happens after that first lap. And then I'll run down to the pits and kind of get the rundown to see how these cars look.
We are inside of 2 minutes for the start of the Nitto King of the Hammers. I'm going to put you guys in the spot and ask you for your pick here in just a moment, or at least your top three. But I'm very excited about what we're going to be running on. The field at over 100 vehicles, just amazing. What is happening here in Hammertown, I wouldn't want to fathom a guess of how many people are here, but it is absolutely massive. A town has been created here in Johnson Valley.
There's, I think there's over 50,000 people on site. There's no electricity, no water. The Hammer King production crew brings their own electricity, brings their own internet, and puts on this live show. Some of the best off-road coverage in the world, hands down. So thank you to the Hammer King production crew for bringing that to us. We're minutes away. We've got lots of racing action. All these big names are pulling through. Oh, there's going to be action everywhere, guys.
Speaking of big names, let's do it. Let's pick what we think, as we're getting close to a minute to racing.
So Shannon Campbell is the only three-time Nitto King of the Hammers winner. Could it be him? Jason Shear. All the top kings have already been here. Eric Miller, Lauren Healy. I mean, there's so many fast guys, but Paul Horschel's a new guy. Tom Weiss got, or not new guy, new car.
Let's talk about Tom Weiss. Tom Weiss is the man who's the nearly man, the man who's nearly won this event on more than one occasion. He's got a brand new car. He's taken some older technology from his old car that he knew worked, suspension geometry, the old motor, refreshed it, put it into a new package with a second seat next to him as well. And that could have a big part to play. Calm him down a little when he's actually in those big when he's out there on the course. So we can't discount Tom. He had a very poor qualifying session, but I'm sure that might have just settled his nerves, settled him down a bit, and he could be very dangerous today.
I think that definitely Tom is one of the sentimental favorites after spending quite a bit of time talking to him. The energy, the style, I mean, he's so fun to be around. It's just a matter of if you can translate it to good racing.
And don't forget, there's over $100,000 on the line for the winner today. Over this week, there's been over $300,000 out. That's stepped a lot of these guys' game.
For sure, 100%. I'm looking forward to a great day of racing. As we've already said, we want to thank everybody that's been a part of the event all week long. Of course, we've had UTVs, we've had the T1s, we've had the Everyman Challenge. We'll talk about all of that. But right now, it's time to start talking about this race, because we're going green in just about a minute.
And on the pole is Nick Nelson side by side to Jason Shear. Sounds like 30 seconds out, it'll be a drag race. Nelson does have more horsepower.
It's going to be fantastic to watch any moment now. We're going to see thousands of angry horses charging off the line here in Hammertown. It's a sight that just blows my mind every time I see it.
So Nelson's the yellow car, Shear's the Fox car. They'll be side by side. 5 seconds away, it sounds like. There's Tom Griffin getting ready to wave the flag. We are off. Drag race through the infield. We'll see who gets out in the desert first. Nick Nelson and Jason Shear side by side in the infield. Looks like Nelson pulls away just a tick.
And they're going to go into this Talladega-style turn with the high banking. And you can see this is the look inside of Hammertown.
Nelson out front heading towards that Nitto arch with a little bit of lead. Shear, I talked to him quite a bit the other night, and he's not scared to let him get out there a little bit and try to taste his dust. There goes Lauren Healy and Brian Cross side by side. Healy gets the early jump.
Woohoo! Look at the roost. It is flying. They run through this very short infield section, and they will head out into the off-road section, of course, the desert loop as we're calling it, they'll go by back door. Do they have the option to go to back door this first time if they want to?
You have to run back door 1 out of 3 laps. There's a great shot of JP Gomez next to Casey Curry. It's going to be a lot of fun to see these guys rip through the desert. Just a few seconds away, green flag, JP Gomez, Casey Curry.
Let's not forget JP Gomez is coming off the back of 2 Ultra 4 wins in the last 2 races. Can he make King of the Hammers his hat trick? He is the man on fire at the moment, and they've been pushing these cars for the last 3 years. They've got them really dialed in now, so let's see what the Gomez brothers can do today.
On screen there looks like Lauren Healy in the desert, going through that little desert wash section.
They're just coming out of that first section as they head towards back door.
And another great lineup right here. That's Kody Addington and Paul Horschel on course. Kody Addington, side by side, wheel to wheel action, pulls out. We'll see if he can hold that little lead there.
It's really tough to come out of that second start position or the wide start position. That's where I came from yesterday. And you kind of have to follow the leader. I tried to dive to the inside and make a move. Wasn't able to, but we'll see if someone is able to here on this infield. This is a tight battle going into turn 2.
Now this is a really interesting one. We've got one of the oldest guys in Ultra 4 racing and one of the youngest, Jordan Pellegrino, in the full independent suspension car. And then next to him, 3-time king Shannon Campbell.
Oh, and Campbell with the shot from the outside. I was just saying how hard it is to do that.
Well, he's letting all that horsepower hang out. Jordan Pellegrino on that brand new IFS IRS with portals on it. And that looks like Addington and Horschel running through the desert, heading towards that back door area. Are they going to go left, head on up, or take a right? There's Waylon Campbell.
And Jeff McKinley, of course, in another one of these Dragon 2 cars. They have been so this is almost not their debut, this is their second time here at Hammers, but they're getting them dialed in. And we're seeing 5 of them inside the top 10, which is absolutely remarkable. And of course, Waylon Campbell, who's been on this podium more than once. He's overdue a win here at Hammers. Can he do it today?
And going to the line now, Raul Gomez and Greg Adler. I believe Rob McCachran inside.
I believe Rob McCachran is driving the first little blip. He raced you against the T1s yesterday. Had a tough look on him running out front. But Rob McCachran getting out of front of Gomez right there.
It's worth talking about the continued debate, the battle that rages in Ultra 4. Solid axle or IFS. We only had 2 solid axles cars qualify inside the top 20 this year. That's remarkable. We haven't seen that before. So why is that?
IFS definitely seems to be the way of the future. There's still a few people likes the solid axle, but the IFS has just proven to be dominant in the desert for sure, and they're really starting to make them a lot stronger to be able to handle the rock sections. There's McCachran driving for Adler, right in front of Raul Gomez in that desert section. Looks like they've bypassed back door already. Up next is our first straight axle, Rick Waterbury next to Mike Bergman. Waterbury in the dark Nitto buggy. Mike Bergman in the white on the outside of that UFO buggy. Side-by-side drag race. Mike Bergman laying it all on the line.
That's going to be tied into turn 1. We'll see how this plays out, wheel to wheel.
And up next off the line, another 2-time Nitto King of the Hammers, Eric Miller and Marcos Gomez side-by-side once again. This is the 2019 Nitto King of the Hammers powered by Optima battery. And they are off. Miller on the inside. Gomez on the outside. There's roost everywhere on this infield. What a race it has been so far today, and we're just minutes into it.
Talking to Marcos Gomez this morning, he said he just felt calm and ready, and the vibe over there in the Gomez pit has been really calm, cool, and collected.
I was there also the other day, and you're absolutely right. There's a totally different vibe in the pit this year. They feel ready for this race. They feel that they've got these cars dialed in. They're where they will need to be. Let's see. I think they're just going to back off the pace a bit, and I think that will play into their hands and put them in great positions at the end of the race.
And on screen, we just saw Bailey Campbell take off with Dan Fresh in his bomber. Bailey's in a 2C IFS Campbell chassis with Terry Madden riding shotgun.
Now, the interesting thing about Bailey's car, she's carrying an awful lot of fuel. She's carrying nearly 80 gallons of fuel. So that means that she can have a completely different pit strategy to many others. This car was built for hammers. So we can see her going all the way around into remote pit 2 before she needs to make a fuel stop.
There's Disco Derek West taking off right next to Mike Bad Daddy Boo. And just like you were talking about the Campbells, I was in their pit when they were doing their strategies last night. Bailey Campbell may only have to stop one time for fuel. Most of these guys will have to stop twice.
And I think it's a great point to bring up. It's not just smash it and go. It's not just smashing the rocks. There is strategy. There is race engineering that goes into this. And of course, everybody has their own plan they come with, and we'll watch it unfold as the day comes along.
Taking off another two-time Nitto King of the Hammers winner, Randy Slauson next to Josh Blyler. Josh is in his backup car. He wadded up his race car shock tuning earlier this week, so he brought a spare car and he's back out there on race course. Great to see Josh battling out.
Josh has a fantastic history here at Hammers. He always does it remarkably well. Doesn't qualify in the highest of positions, but he's always there at the end of the race.
And one of the favorites of the crowd coming to the line now. A lot of people would like to see a new king here.
New dad, Levi Shirley, number 81 out of Dodge City, Kansas, right next to Mike Heston and another Miller Motorsports chassis. Levi Shirley has really made a great action. They almost tapped wheels going off that first little tabletop. What a great race it's been so far this morning. I hope you guys are having as much fun as we are up here.
As we watch Levi Shirley heading out now into the second of the Talladega Bends. And now we've got Andrew Mclaughlin leaving the line. I was chatting to Andrew yesterday, and he's so confident this year.
Right next to Brian Caprera, the vegetable farmer out of California. Two 2C IFS machines battling out in the infield, seeing who can get out on that desert first. Remember, it's side by side, 2 at a time, 30-second increments. This race is on corrected time, so it will be a race to the finish. Off next is Shawn Holland and Clay Gilstrap getting ready to take off. Clay's led this race before. We'll see if he can get out front and run his own race.
Starting to get rutted up there in that first turn. It's going to be tricky with all the different lines starting here over competitors.
After you guys in the T1 trucks came here through yesterday, those ruts, you guys are mainly two-wheel drives, and you guys really tore up that start line. So another one coming up next is Dave Cole's son, Bailey Cole, right next to Eric Miramon. Just taking off. It's great to see both of those guys out there racing.
Yeah, Bailey coming up through the ranks. I've been racing with him for many, many years, and it's so good to see him getting better and better each day. Let's not forget, he stole a podium position in the 4800 class on Wednesday.
It looks like Kyle and Jade Wickham should be next. Jade drove in the EMC, and Kyle's driving today in a brand new GT 2C IFS machine. Great to see them dabbling in the 4400 class. Kenneth Goodall on the outside with pulling just a tick of a lead. We'll see who gets after that desert first. And Cameron, let's recap how we have had a little bit of moisture out here. How much dust is out in the desert loop?
It wasn't bad at all. There are some sections, especially across that first dry lake bed into the course crossing, and it's very dusty at the beginning, but then when you get into the bumps, it's quite a bit less dusty.
Another Nitto athlete and huge name in our sport, Vaughn Gittin Jr. taking off right next to Jason Shipman. Shipman's raced with us for a very long time. Great to see him back here.
And all the moisture we've had, you make a good point, is going to allow for some great close-up racing, but also going to be tough on the equipment. We'll talk about that more as we continue on.
One of our LCQ drivers, Kevin Hart, taking off right next to Alex Wacker in a Tribe 16 built machine.
That Tribe car is absolutely beautiful. It's a couple of years old now, and Alex is just starting to get to grips with it.
And what happened to 773 Kevin Hart on the start line? That's going to jam up the next guys. Hopefully he can get moving. That could really affect the start line for a few of these guys. Having some issues. Up next is the one we've been talking about, Tom Weiss next to Chad Owens.
And Tom going around.
Tom Weiss gets the early jump, gets out there, while Kevin Hart is struggling. Is it transmission issues? We're not quite sure. Tough break for Kevin Hart. Up next is Dan Wyrick. Next to John Hall, I believe. There is so much action on course. We do apologize. We'll goof up a few things from here and here, but we're doing our best to bring you the best live coverage we can.
Well, I don't even have cell service here, so I'm not sure how we're doing live coverage, but it is absolutely amazing to be able to see. And next up will be Kody Wagner, one of my friends, actually from my hometown in San Clemente. And
okay, next off the line now, we've got Kody Wagner in the fully independent suspension vehicle. And next to him, again, the whole shot is Inaki Lanzagorta out of Spain. Inaki purchased this car from Casey Curry. It's a proven car, and Inaki is one of 5 European crews racing here this year.
And to note, Kody Wagner has a pretty cool co-driver. It's Wayne Israelson, one of the best shock tuners out there. So he's got an addition to put in the seat. He finished second place with Lofton yesterday. So Wayne Israelson is a great co-dog.
he is an amazing co-driver, a great wealth of knowledge, and we spent a lot of time with Wayne, one of the great personalities in off-road racing, desert racing in general.
And just now taking off is Rusty Blyler next to Kay Yoder.
So
Looks
17 miles into this first lap, we'll get them to pit 1, where they'll be in a speed control area and pass through there.
Looks like our Jeep got the Kevin Hart off track, so we're back in action.
And there is remote pit 1.
Taking off the line right now, Matt Howell, Adam Shearer next to Ryan Stambaugh, Tribe 16 built machine, the Nightmare. Matt Howell's been racing the 4,500 class for a very long time, so it's really cool to see him bump up a class. He rented a car.
There you go.
Up next is Mitchell Thorpe and George Pronisti.
About halfway through the starting field at this point, so quite a few more rows to go.
Another cool group right here. It's Brendan Thompson, 5150, right next to Four Wheel Parts. Big name, Brent Guggenberg, with Rob Bender part riding shotgun with Brent. Four Wheel Parts is one of our main sponsors out here, so great to see them out here racing with us. Looks like Brendan Thompson takes the early lead. Looks like Brent's having a little bit of issues, so we've seen a couple guys take off earlier. Yesterday morning when you took off, your T1 struggled just a tick.
We did. So we didn't warm the truck. Well, we warmed the truck up enough. We didn't clean it out enough, and it loaded up. And until we got to the second corner, the truck wouldn't run. That was in qualifying, so that was definitely a tough way to start.
Taking off next is Dustin Eisenhower and Kevin Porterfield. You can see Brent pulled over to the side. They're going to try to check that car out. They still are in the hot pits. This is a no-chase race, so they have to fix their own car out on course, or if they're in the pits, you can have your whole pit crew touch it.
There is the remote pit, of course, and you can pit here in the main pit where we'll see a lot of fueling. We'll cover all those pit stops. Actually, Miles, you'll be heading down there to bring us information from the teams. And right now, more starting.
The pits are a lot of fun. Just taking off right now is Philip McGilton and Sam Collins in that 49 Ford. Cool to see. That's our live drone. These Hammer King production guys have been doing an amazing job out there. Once again, this is the 2019 Nitto King of the Hammers, powered by Optima battery. Up next, one of my buddies, Chris May, taking off next to Jason Waits, Black Sheep Racing. That is one of the original UFOs.
And we're just getting reports now that Darren Henke is on fire out there, hitting over 120 mile an hour going through the desert section. That's crazy speeds.
That's close to the T1 speeds out there. That's amazing to be doing that in that rough desert section that Cameron, you tore up yesterday. So up next, Jimmy Howie and Matt Trabino. We have just over 100 cars taking off the line this morning. in 30-second increments. It should take about a half hour to get all these cars on course.
Speaking of time, you have any predictions of how long it's going to take to crown a king here today?
I'm going to say roughly around 3:30 we'll have a king in here, so that's eight-ish hours of racing.
And of course, it is decided on elapsed time, so you can win from mid-pack. And we'll be following all those times during the day, giving you all that information and splits as well.
Taking off course, we just saw Scott Pfister and Chip Mclaughlin. Up next off the line is Matt Burkett and Don Fisher. We've got so many heavy hitters taking off today. It's a lot of fun. They did qualify Tuesday.
As we're going side by side, continuing the starts, Miles, how many teams would you say have the equipment, the strategy, the organization, and the driver to combine for a possible shot at being the king today?
That's a great way or a great point to bring up, because obviously a current king has it. They could do it, and there's, I'm going to say, 20 others that could do it. And there's some people who are racing this race just to race the race to get to the finish for bragging rights. But there's so there's a 50-50 shot on, yes, I want to finish, yes, I want to win. We just saw Nate Geese and Jake Yeoman take off. Up next in his brand new car to him is Edwin Abt and Hunter Sparrow.
It's great to see this, but as our leaders stretch out into the desert, it's almost as in the order that they left earlier today. You see that Nick Nelson and Jason Shearer are right at the pointy end, as is Lauren Healy. Although it does look like Shannon Campbell might be making up some ground.
It's going to be really hard to tell because these trackers update about every 2 minutes. These guys are going to be moving foot fast, pushing hard. It's going to be great to see. Looks like up next, two more LCQ guys. Brian McVeigh and Eric Wicks taking off on course. There is so much action in this infield. We are having a lot of fun. Cameron, what are you feeling right now?
The energy is just incredible. I mean, not just on the track, but here all through Hammertown. If you walked around this morning, it's just incredible to see the vibe, the people, how many people have come out, and just watching along the side of the race course, how many people are lining those fences and snow fencing is just spectacular. It brings a huge energy.
And if you come out here in a month, there'll be nobody out here. It's crazy to see. Off the line right now, I believe, is Eric Wicks and Jeremy Brown. Jeremy Brown and James Sweeney, sorry about that. Looks like that could be Brent Guggenberg back on course. Not sure what kind of hiccup they had. I'll try to chat with them here in a little bit. Up next should be Travis Cook and LCQ Tim Priest. I know both of these guys pretty well. Great to see them racing. They're going for a finish.
You're talking about the LCQ. Let's talk a little bit about how they qualified to make the field.
So the LCQ is part of qualifying, and I think there's about a dozen, because you have to qualify for this race all through the season at different races. If you're a current king, you're automatically in, and if you win a podium spot, you get in. So there's a lot of people that you have to qualify to get in this race, but you can show up, run the LCQ, and possibly get in with your qualifying time. Up next was Mark Danzo and Michael Fegan, Scooby-Doo.
Now coming next to the line is the second of our international entries. It's Chris Hummer and Neil Cooper. Neil Cooper will be driving. And this vehicle, it's coming all the way from Australia to be here with us today. It's their first time racing at Hammers. They came out here last year to have a look, and they got hooked by the bug, so they're back here now. These guys are super experienced racers. They've won the major events in Australia and in the Malaysian Rainforest Challenge, so let's see what they can do here in Hammertown today.
We just saw John Matthews and Mark Nicholson take off. I got ahead of myself on that one. I do apologize. Thanks for keeping me honest, Jim. That was Chris Hummer, John Matthews. Now it's Mark Nicholson and Aaron Patrick.
Flying the flag high and proud as they make their way into the desert. Looking out on the live tracker now, which we'll be coming to very soon. can still tell you, it looks like Nick Nelson has the lead in Khaleesi.
And that's an interesting story because Nick Nelson has roughly 800 horsepower in that big bad machine, and Jason Shearer that's chasing his dust is roughly 500. It's pretty cool to see.
So still we've got cars leaving here now. Let's not forget this first lap is 90 plus miles. So it's going to be an incredible battle just to get back to Hammertown. And then it's going to be all about fuel strategy. They can pass through remote pit 1 twice in this first lap.
Speaking of pit 1, it looks like we have action inside a remote pit 1.
Getting ready to take off is Derek Luca and Mel Wade. He's running a Jeep. He just takes off KMC Nitto Tires Thompson machine.
We have over 100 vehicles crossing the line and leaving the line today here in Hammertown. It's a fantastic field of vehicles. And we've got more people coming up from Europe. But first of all, we've got Joey Webber and Joe Hutchins taking the line. Now in the desert, it's going to be very cold. I mean, you were in the desert racing in the T1 yesterday. How do you keep your hands cold, hands warm? How do you keep yourself warm?
That was actually, obviously I wore my fireproof undersuit as well as my race suit. And I wore some extra layers because it was freezing out there. We started the race, it was quite cold. A little bit warmer today. It's actually a balmy morning, so to speak.
Yes, nice, perfect racing conditions here. It's exactly what we expect to Hammers as Hell's Bells charges from the line.
Right next to Evan Berman.
And next on the line is going to be a Brit, Dan Roderick, making his way all the way from the UK, and lining next to him is going to be Nicolas Montador, straight out of France. Great to see these guys over here. These guys do battle against each other in Ultra 4 Europe, so it's amazing to see them lined up next to each other here in Hammers.
It is great to see so many of your guys you race with over here racing today.
Oh, it is. These guys are great friends of mine. And it's so good to see they're not here to win this event. They're here to have a great time. You can see the Union flag flying off the back of Danny's car there as Nicholas takes the whole shot.
And another big name that's raced with us last year is Aaron Kaufman and Neville Ciantar.
Neville Canter, Neville. Another European entry. Neville comes from Malta, a tiny little island in the middle of the Mediterranean. And he's got a huge fan base back home who will all be watching. Don't forget, it's very late in the evening back in Europe. And they'll be loving this.
Looks like Tom Weiss in the picture-in-picture there, inside the hot pit at pit 1.
That's
We'll try to
tough.
find
You
out
know
what's
he
going
doesn't
on
want
there.
to be sitting there right now.
No, for sure.
Well, let's not forget, Tom has a new car. He hasn't got many miles on it. It's a very brave man who brings a brand new car to Hammers.
Getting ready to take off the line right now is Randy Watson next to Barry Smithhurst. Getting the green flag from Tom Beebe with Griffin.
Barry Smithhurst is also out of Australia. He came over here, picked up a rental car for this race, and again, he's taking part of his dream of being part of the 2019 Nitto King of the Hammers powered by Optima battery.
Tom Weiss heading back out, so I'm not sure what happened, but it was a quick and easy check. Up next is Michael Hinn, taking off right next to Tyson Shimanok.
Michael Henn is our first entry in Hammers from Israel, which is very exciting. Just think about that, logistics of getting everything here from Israel. So these guys are also here to have a great time, and it's so good to see him. He'll be so happy to get off the line first then. Stan Haynes heading off the line now. Let's not forget we saw Stan Haynes go turtle earlier this week on the infield. So can he get round corner 2? He didn't the other day, so let's see what he can do this time.
There's Stan Haynes on screen as we speak. We're getting a little bit out of order here, so I do apologize if we get a couple of these names wrong. Looks like that's Chris Hicks and Daryl Gray getting ready to take off. That number 85 is one of Lauren Healy's old cars. I believe that car won in 2014.
And we're getting some looks. Inside, you can see this picture. This is from back door, and you can see it looks like we have a lineup in there already. Now, right when you leave Hammertown, just outside about maybe a mile and 3/4, just around the first corner and up the first wash, is back door. Let's talk a little bit about what back door is.
So there are 3 laps in today's race, and you only have to run back door one time, and it looks like that's Travis Cook that's hung up a little bit. So we're doing some winching in back door as we speak. Look like that's the 313 of Chris Pavia, and right next to Chad Hunt taking off. We almost have the entire field out on course. 2 side by side in 30-second increments. It is on corrected time. The 2019 Nitto King of the Hammers, powered by Optima battery, is almost all the competitors are on course.
And our final starter for the 2019 Nitto King of the Hammers, powered by Optima batteries, will be taking the green, and the field is all on our desert course.
And I don't have the information right in front of me, but I believe that's Tim Hooper.
Side-by-side racing into that first desert turn, and it's right into this wash. You'll see here if we stay with them, and they will get into the section right where that backdoor option is. And there's a look at backdoor. And this is one of the most notable obstacles at King of the Hammers. For those of us that don't spend a ton of time out here, it's one that's easy to get to. It's easy to see. And there's the crowd lining the field outside the fence as they head up towards backdoor. Everybody's off to start. You guys exciting to get started? Jim and Miles, we're going to have a whole bunch more when we come back to the Nitto King of the Hammers right now.